if you're a working mom, you're not a good enough mom. If you are a stay-at-home mom, you're not a good enough mom. Like no matter what we do as a woman, we are pissing somebody off. I saw this quote once that I'm not going to argue with someone whose G spot is in their asshole. And I try to think about that a lot. I don't care what a man tells me what to do with my life. He can go fuck himself.
Hey, welcome to Meet Me at the Spot, where pleasure meets education. This is the space where we get real about sex, relationships, and everything in between. I'm your host, Holly Eckelberger, and I'm a longtime sexual health educator, activist, and content creator. I will be your guide through conversations that blend curiosity, pleasure, and truth. Together with some amazing guests, we'll break down stigma, celebrate bodies, and learn how to embrace sexual health with confidence and joy. So get comfy because it's time for the show to get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Meet Me at the Spot, where pleasure meets education. I'm your host, Holly. I am so excited to share with all of you my conversation with Carina. Carina North, who uses she, her pronouns, is the voice behind Her Childfree Life, where she talks about living child-free by choice and what it really means to build a life on your own terms. We get into a lot in this episode, and it's really important for those of you listening who are parents, who are not parents yet, who want to be parents someday or don't want to be parents someday. This conversation is really for everyone in how we stay connected and not divided in this conversation about parenthood. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Carina. Welcome, Carina, to the podcast. I'm really, really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly.
Absolutely. I always like to ask, what got you started into that work that you do around the social media content?
So my entire life, up until I was about 28 years old, I assumed that having children was basically inevitable. I grew up in a very religious background, and I was always told from the time I was little, like anything I would do, they would, adults in my life would say, "Oh, well, you're going to be such a great mother." And what I didn't realize at the time was I was avoiding it. So I would constantly be putting off when to have kids. So I got married at 25, and I was like, okay, well, first I need to get my bachelor's degree. And then next I need to get my master's degree. Well, I need to get my career right in the right spot. And I kept just kicking the can down the line until I was about 28 years old. And I just incidentally stumbled across a different podcast about the child-free lifestyle. And it wasn't until that point where it clicked in my head, and I was like, wait a second. I don't need to have kids. People are happy without having kids. And that was kind of like a big moment for me. And I remember talking to my spouse at the time, and I was like, I don't think I want kids. And we ended up getting divorced, not because of that, it was other reasons, but that was a conversation where it was kind of just like this thing where I didn't realize that was actually an option. So whenever I created Her Childfree Life last year, I realized that there's not as many child-free accounts as let's say mommy bloggers or anything like that. There's still a good amount of really great ones, and I noticed a lot of them are on the side of being, I don't want to say aggressively child-free, and there's nothing wrong with being aggressively child-free, but I kind of wanted to meet people where they were not quite sure if they wanted to, but I guess flirting with the idea like, hey, maybe I don't want kids. I don't really necessarily want to alienate myself from other parents either. So that's kind of where this all came. So I'm kind of trying to be that bridge in the gap, be like, hey, I'm very happy. This is my life. This is why. If you're questioning this, these are some questions to ask yourself, helping people with the boundaries and kind of being that midway point versus all the way on one end of the spectrum per se. And so that's kind of what I started, because I feel like at that point in time in my life, that's something that I really needed. And decided that's how I got here.
Yeah, I love that. We were talking before the recording, just breaking down the fourth wall. I came across your account and I was immediately like, oh my gosh, love this. And love your content so much. And I love your perspective. And I knew I had to have you on the show. Like, you've been on my list for a long time. And that sounds creepy and so weird. And it's not. But I'm like, I have to have you on because your perspective is really unique. And the work that I do in sexual health and reproductive justice, we talk a lot about parenting and raising children and in pregnancy and all of that stuff, and there's a lot, like you said, a lot of information out there for that. But for folks who that's not a vision they have for themselves, there really isn't a whole lot, and there is a sense of kind of loneliness. And I'm so glad you shared that story. And it's so funny because my story's almost like the exact opposite flip. I was also married previously, and um did not want to have kids because he did not want to have kids. And the more we got into our relationship, I started to realize, no, it's not that I don't want to have kids. It's that I don't want to have kids with you, because you are a terrible human being, which is why we're divorced. So I came to that realization that I
Yeah,
was
there's
like, no,
always
I
a reason.
do want to have kids. Yeah, there's always like several, but yeah, there's always a top reason, right? Um, and so for me, it was almost like the exact flip because I was like adamantly like, no, I don't want to have kids. Y'all need to stop asking me. I don't want to have kids. And then I was like, oh no, I do actually want to have kids. And as a mom now, I still get so much out of the content that you put out because I my biggest thing is respecting the fact that everyone has autonomy over their own body, right? So, like, if you don't want to have kids, I respect the hell. I don't want somebody to have kids that's like, I don't want to have kids and I don't want to live a life where I'm a parent. Like, that's just not for me. That's just not the vision for me. Like, I respect that so much because I don't want people to have kids that aren't really in that headspace and don't want to have kids, right? Like, but I also see your posts, and I watch a lot of like the narrative, especially on social media, um, with people being very anti no kids, like
Oh
being
yeah. It can be pretty aggressive on my threads. I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm not even fighting people anymore. I just block them. I'm like, I ain't got time for this shit.
no, yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I was
yeah.
curious how you kind of handle all that because that can be, and people are not nice on the internet obviously all the time, but
Oh
really
no, they're not.
aggressive.
Everyone, yeah, everyone like has the biggest balls out there. Whenever they don't say it to their face. So how I handle it is I have to practice really good boundaries. That's something I've been working on. I don't know, probably about 10 years now in therapy. And something I realized, and this even goes into my business, is that if this person doesn't like me, they're not. I'm not here to please them. They're not someone that would ever find value in what I create. So I don't want to take their criticism. So something I found is that the parents like you who find value in my posts and agree, I don't say you have to agree with everything I say because I'm sure there's some things that we might differ on. But when it comes to everyone should have their own choice. You should not be a parent unless you absolutely want, your kid, not just want your kids, but wants everything, any variable that can happen, whether your kid is healthy or sick or, whatever their orientation is or whatever they want to do with their lives. If you don't want to support with every direction that they can go, you just want a mini me or you just want it for your own narcissistic reason, that the parents who agree with me and that we get along with, they are already happy and secure in their decision.
Mhm.
The ones who will come at me and tell me, oh, I'm so selfish or all this, they are the people who are, I mean, obviously I don't know all of their lives, but I'm willing to bet that they are the people who are miserable with their decisions, who wish that maybe they had them with a different partner, because that was something that you mentioned, is that at one point you didn't think you wanted kids, and so many people are rushed to have kids so early on. Like even Project 2026, I was just reading some stuff today that they're trying to get women or to marry younger and have kids younger before they're even fully mature, before their brain is even fully developed to make up those things. So they're wanting is to get married young and have kids as soon as possible. And then, of course, that gets people trapped in these patterns that they don't want to be in. They might outgrow their partner, or even there's just so many different ways that you can look at this. So many things that could make somebody miserable with their choice. If you have an insupportive partner, if you want to talk about weaponized incompetence, you want to talk about the other partner not wanting to pull their part, or women especially doing most of household labor. And then also, if you're a working mom, you're not a good enough mom. If you are a stay-at-home mom, you're not a good enough mom. Like, no matter what we
Mm-hmm.
do as a woman, we are pissing somebody off.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the men, especially, I get a little, like I say, I get more hurt, but it's a little bit more annoying to me when I see a woman saying something nasty on my page. If it's a man, I don't care. I saw this quote once that I'm not going to argue with someone whose G spot is in their asshole. And I try to think about that a lot. I don't care what a man tells me what to do with my life. He can go fuck himself, okay? Just go to war or something. I don't know. Um, you want to talk about traditional values. But when it's a woman, I'm just like, bitch, what the hell? Like, we're all like, we no matter what we do, we are pissing somebody off. So I guess that's kind of how I deal with it, is like, no matter what I do in this life, someone is going to be pissed off about it. I just block them now. It's on threads. Like,
Yeah.
there's no point in me engaging with them. There's no point in them upsetting my followers or people, especially if they're very hateful comments. Because I also notice that some of my followers will try to defend me or fight them, and I don't want them putting that emotional energy in this cesspool of a person either. So I guess that's kind of how I handle the negativity here. It's sometimes easier said than done. Some days I just log off, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just kind of the greater thing about just being who I am, or identifying as a child-free woman. Because if it's not online, it's what everyone else is thinking that they won't say to my face out in society. So
I love that. I like how you said people are real tough on the internet because they're a faceless person, right? Like they think they're very anonymous. And it's always the person that has like their first name, last name, like their full government name. I'm like, you are so dumb. Um, and so like yeah, how and their birth year, it's like, like John Smith, like
their employer
1987.
and
It's
everything
like,
else.
what is you're so dumb. Um, so yeah, and so it is so hard to set boundaries when you talk, especially when you talk about topics that are controversial for people. There, there are a lot of times I have posted something and I'm like, this is not even a controversial take.
I'm trying to think of the worst one that I wrote. I think one of the ones that blew up very unexpectedly was me talking about some of my MAGA family members. There was one about my MAGA cousin, and then there was one about my MAGA father, and it's just. I guess I should have prepared for this, because the word MAGA, drew them all in. But just my favorite comment though in there, there's hundreds of them. My favorite one I saw was, "Oh, please don't reproduce." And I'm like, did you even look at my account name?
It's right there.
like I love that. I'm like, okay, I won't.
You got it. You
Thank
got
you.
it, sir.
Like, let me
Oh,
go
goodness.
like see if I can get my tubes put back in just to spite you. Okay.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, people are wild the things that they write. I'm like, did you even read it? Did you even take like 5 seconds to even like look at my page to even know what you're talking about? No. If you had done that, this comment would not exist on the internet right now because you would feel real silly.
Oh, I love the wall of text too with no punctuation, because you know that
Oh yeah.
they are pissed and they are just going straight with thought. So that's the type of thing I look for, and I try to laugh about it. I'm like, oh, this person got really mad.
Or when it's in all caps and I'm like, oh, okay. Why are
Yeah,
you yelling?
no
Calm
punctuation or
down.
whatever.
It takes you like 5 reads to be like, what are they trying to say? Where does the sentence end? I don't know what's happening here.
There's some of them I'm just like, good luck with that. I don't know. Sorry.
Right, right. That's all you can say, right? Um,
Mhm.
Something that you brought up that I think is really important is, and we're gonna get into the fun stuff, I guess. You brought up around Project 2026, and um, in the current political landscape, and I always have to preface this before we start talking about politics, anything we're talking about is what's happening when we're recording this in mid-February. So it may look very different when this episode comes out for the world.
Could be
But
different
in our
tomorrow. But yeah.
exactly. um, so in thinking about the content that you put on, the information you put out about living a child-free lifestyle, and how that uh, is not in alignment with obviously Project 2025 and now Project 2026, and kind of the direction and feelings of our current political administration in the United States. um, I was hoping that you could talk a little bit more about that, about how the work that you do is real political.
So for Project 2026, there's several things that they're wanting to supposedly implement. I don't know how they're going to do it or how successful they're going to be, but as of the time of this recording, currently they are wanting to end no-fault divorces. There's a current document that calls the current system a no reason needed system, and they want to basically get rid of it. They want to limit alimony to financially trap women who want to leave, overhauling custody laws. I'm just reading my notes here that currently favor primary caretakers, and electing ideologically anti divorce family court judges who can block couples from separating at all. So, I briefly touched on my divorce. My divorce was a no fault divorce in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, if this was implemented at that time, I would not have been able to divorce my spouse at the time. There was nothing abusive that, physically abusive or anything really that could substantiate a divorce if I had to actually prove it. And even so, let's just go on a hypothetical thing here. Let's say he was physically abusive. How would I prove that to a point where a judge would grant it? Especially if my spouse at the time did not want me to leave. So that's scary, just for not just, that's more from my feminist perspective. A woman cannot leave a very dangerous marriage, which one is, we know just from domestic violence statistics, that is the most dangerous time for the woman. But if she is just absolutely trapped, either, financially, now legally, where she can't even go anywhere else, that is horrifying. And so anyone who might want to be like, oh, well, you just need to prove a reason, again, it's not easy to prove it. I actually have a friend in Texas who, I don't want to give too much details about her case, but she had to basically drain her entire retirement just to get a divorce from her partner, or her spouse at that time. And he still has 50-50 custody. He drives very expensive cars, and he's trying to reduce his child support, and he torments her all the time. And she has submitted so much evidence, paperwork of evidence, proving that he is harassing her daily, and they do absolutely nothing. Right. And this is in one of the blue cities of Texas. So so that's one thing that is scary that people need to be paying attention to, especially. Another one is that they're wanting to push women out of the workforce. And as you can probably imagine, they want women to be focused more on staying at home and supporting the family versus going to work. And that's something that a lot of far-right people will say, is that people like me, oh, well, you're just too busy working. If you were at home you could have kids. And I'm like, no, it's like, I like working. I like doing that. Like, it's not my personality to be a homemaker. And those who are, I'm not saying anything against them, it's just not personally for me. But so they're thinking that by basically, their proposal is to measure every single federal grant, contract, regulation, and policy, whether it supports marriage and family formation. They want to encourage women to rethink their relationship to men, marriage, children, and family. So this is actually kind of interesting. Just caveat, something I was talking to my grandma about was, she was saying something like she doesn't know why she's such a people pleaser. And I said to her, well, you were born in the 40s. And you have to have everybody to like you in order for you to survive. And she's like, well, I don't know about that. I'm like, no. I'm like, think about it. I'm like, it wasn't you weren't ever able, until like much later in your life. But when you were my age, when you were in your 30s, would you have been allowed to have your own bank account without my grandpa signing on for you? And she goes, no, I guess you wouldn't. I said, right. I said, you wouldn't have been able to own your own home. I'm like, what if my grandpa, what if he wasn't a good person? My grandpa was great as far as I know. Like they were very equal partners even back then, very based back in that time. But I said, what if he wasn't? What would you have done? And she just paused for a while. She goes, well, I guess I would have had to kill him. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, historically speaking.
Yeah. that's that's the reality has of history, is that women couldn't leave because the expectation was to stay at home and take care of the kids, and the husband and slash father went out and worked all day and came home. But if you
Mm-hmm.
couldn't open a bank account, you didn't have an income, so you couldn't afford a divorce lawyer or anything like that. um, how are you going to support the kids, all of those things. So there, that was the only way out for so many people, or stay
Yeah.
stuck in this terrible marriage forever and ever and ever.
And and that's the return to, I put air quotes, traditional values that they are wanting to implement. Another thing is that they're wanting to encourage early marriage. And again, kind of like I mentioned before, they're wanting to do it. I want to say the median age for a woman's first marriage is between 28 and 29 right now. And they're wanting to bring that down because again, they want to. I don't like saying the word trap because that might be offensive to some people, thinking, oh no, this was the best. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
every situation is unique, but what they're wanting to do is get people to marry as soon as possible. And I just know that growing up, I grew up in a very conservative town, very Southern Baptist, southeastern part of the United States. And um, I just remember my first boyfriend that I had, my parents suggesting that he would be the person I would marry and all that. I'm like, he's literally my first boyfriend. Thank God that I didn't marry him because uh, I don't even. But I'm just saying, like, even like then, I wasn't even encouraged to be like, hey, he's just your first boyfriend. It was more like an accomplishment. Like, I found somebody good, like, ooh, you found a man, so you need to go get married right now, versus, okay, you found a man, but like, you know how many of them there are out there? Like, is this a good one?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a whole other topic we can go on too, is that, women need to stop centering men. That's not, again, me saying that all men are bad. I'm sure there's plenty of good ones. My partner is a fantastic man. He's someone who would identify as a feminist progressive person as well. I'm just so tired of hearing like girls like dreams is to just immediately get married as soon as possible and have kids, and that's great and all. I don't think like on a whole that having the dream of having a great spouse and then having your kids, I don't think that in and of itself is wrong. But to do it as soon as possible, the first person you can find, and then have the kids and all that and stuff, and suddenly your life is going to be magical. No, it's not. No, it's not. You need to go out and experience the world. You need to go out, live a little bit, leave your hometown, like just go see
Mm-hmm.
things. And when you find someone, if that's what you want, like I think another thing that's just as important on whether or not you're gonna have them is, if you are gonna have them, making sure you're having them with the right person. Because the speaking mainly to women, but I mean it could go either way. But if you pick the wrong man to have your child with, he could literally ruin your life. It could be so much to, even if you get divorced, you can't leave the state that you want to leave. Again, in Texas, I moved to the Pacific Northwest. If me and my previous my ex-husband, if we had children, I would not have been able to leave the state of Texas, and I would have been stuck there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just, that's probably the second most important thing. Like, one, deciding whether or not this is everything that you want to do, but two, who you're going to have the kids with, because that's just as important. And plus, you also want a good dad who's going to be a good dad to your kids. I mean, if you just need the sperm, go to a bank. Like, then
Right.
don't deal with the man. It's so much easier. You want to work with a partner who's going to help you raise your children, not someone who is just there being another damn thing to take care of. Like, that was another thing I
Hmm.
told my ex-husband. It's like, why do I need kids? I have to take care of you.
I think one of the things that is really important that you're bringing up is that um, is the contradiction to a lot of what you're bringing up from Project 2026 is the lack of choice or option. Now, if somebody chooses that they want to be a stay-at-home mom, um, I support that choice for them. If that's working for their family dynamics and that is something that is working for them and their family, and the best option for them, I fully support that. Even though that's never going to be for me. It's that agency being taken away, that autonomy being taken away, where it's like, no, this is like the quote unquote right way to exist. And the way we're going to find ways through legislation, through policies, through elected officials and court judges and things like that to force you into this type of lifestyle. That's where it becomes a big problem, a real big problem.
Yeah, and the influence is so ingrained in society, which I don't even think people realizing that they are consciously taking in this pro-natalist propaganda is what I call it.
Mhm.
And it's so much in the trad wives out there, which I criticize trad wife content creators constantly because it is so ridiculous out there. Um,
It's
but
so disingenuous. It's
it
not
is,
real.
and it's not like that's like the number one thing. I have like a post where it just basically the post is called "Your Trad Wife Fantasy is a Lie." Like, really, do you think that these people have like all these perfect cameras and all these setups and all this content and making bubble gum from scratch or what have you? Okay, one, if they were a real trad wife, why would their husband allow them to make money? Why aren't
Yep.
they sitting like why are they yeah, I'm just gonna sit here just talking like how they would think. Why would they be sitting here playing around on YouTube and everything when they need to be cooking dinner and they outsource everything and it's all a show. It's all just to sell the perfect little lie. Or yeah, there was another one like I don't want to go talk too much about Erica Kirk, but her, for
Mhm.
example, living her whole life and then having her kids in 30s, but now she's telling people have the kids as soon as possible and all this other stuff. Like,
Mhm.
there's just so much it's just so ingrained in society. Another thing is I feel so deeply for so many young women in America who are still trying to figure out who they are. And we all want to be accepted. We all want to be loved and to be cherished and all that. And it's so sad to me that I think I read somewhere and I don't know the truth behind it, but it makes a lot of sense to me. But it was some women just keep having kids because it's the only time that they're told congratulations for something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is so sad to me. But whenever I look at some people that I went to high school with, that is the case. And I'm not saying that their lives aren't fulfilling and they look happy and I don't know any different and I'm assuming that they are truly happy, but just knowing that there are women out there who just keep having kids and all they are is a mom. Like, I think anytime I see a news article where, God forbid, something horrible happens to a woman, it's like mother of three killed or mother, like their identity is being a mother, not that they are their own person. So they aren't even a person or someone worthy of respect until they're a mother. And I don't think society realizes that that is what we're putting on our girls all the time, that they are their own person. And yes, being a mother is one of the identities you can have, but you're still a person. I guess that's what I'm trying to reach out to other people. I'm not ever trying to pit parents against the child free because honestly, society does that enough as it is. And I
Mhm.
don't even fault the child free content creators who are more aggressively child free. I mean, I even laugh at some of the memes because some of them are funny, but that's coming from a place where we get tired of, we call it getting bingoed, where we get asked the same questions over and over because it's always the same thing because we're challenging the script. Where I'm going with this is that I really think we're not all that different especially moms who are pro-choice and child-free women who are pro-choice, we're really not all that different.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wish there wasn't so much of a divide. That's where I try to exist in my space. And I do love whenever I see moms comment saying, "Hey, I'm a mom and I agree with this." I love that because they know that I'm not shitting on them for being a parent. No, great parents are hard to come by, and I know that I put so much thought into my whether or not I would have kids that I know if I were to become a mom, I know that I would be a fantastic mother because I put my heart and soul into everything that I do. However, that is not something I want to give up because I know the pieces of myself that I would have to give up in order to do that. There's another sector of child-free women, and this is going to be in one of my future blog posts because I just kind of was writing about it, so it's kind of fresh in my brain, where child-free women is synonymous with antinatalism, and that's not true. Um, are there child-free people who are antinatalist? Of course, there are. I am not. I don't subscribe to that, and I'm not saying that people who do, because I can understand the perspectives, I guess, because a lot of people will say that having a child is immoral because it could be environmental reasons, it could be the overpopulation, it could be so many different reasons, and some of them I'm like, okay, I can see your perspective on that. A lot of people think that if you're child free by choice, that means you absolutely hate kids, and that is not. It's just I do not want the responsibility of raising one, because the same people will always say, "Oh, well, it takes a village to raise a child." Okay, why can't I be a village member? Why do I have to be? Why do I have to make another one? Like your child free friends, like a lot of us love your kids just as much as you do. A lot of us are there to talk to you um, or to help out whenever we can. There are so many child-free folks in your community. There's so many child-free people who are in childcare. There's so many who are in education. There are so many within society. So to sit here and say you hate kids because you don't want them, like that's not fair. It's just alienating us, and it's causing further division. And I know that that's just something that the human condition is always going to be an us versus them of some sort.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like one of the things I want to say, and I don't think I've ever said it on this podcast before, but or publicly, but I'm gonna say it, and I'll probably get backlash, and I don't really care. I'm a mom, and I love my child. I don't like kids. I don't.
Okay.
I don't like other people's kids. Like I drop her off at daycare and I'm like, oh, there's too many. This is too loud. It's too much for me. And I give her teachers so much credit for doing that all day. But that's not the life for me. I was a teacher, but I taught middle schoolers and high schoolers. It was very different. And like, if she has a play date with one of her friends, fabulous. I can handle that, small groups of kids, but lots of kids around, it's too much. And I don't know how to relate to little kids at all. But I love what you said because we talk a lot about in parenting spaces like it takes a village and you have to find your people in your village. And oftentimes, especially now since COVID, I had my daughter in 2021 and um COVID really messed up a lot of that, like very very lonely and honestly very scary. Like nobody could come to the hospital, and at first I was like, oh good, because I don't want anybody. But there's this expectation like you're just gonna know what to do, and I didn't know what to do at the hospital. I was freaking out. I was googling like the minute we got
I would
set up
freak
in
out
our
too.
recovery room. I was like, what do you do with newborn baby in recovery room? Like I had no idea what I was doing. Total panic attack, and things like that. And it would have been really helpful if like people could come and visit and I could just talk to them and say, I'm freaking out. Or they could visibly see, like, my mom would be able to be like, what's going on? What's wrong? And be able to talk to me. And thinking about the village, often we don't think about the village being people who don't have kids or who are living a child free life. Often the village is painted as like your mom friends and, get all the mamas together. But I think that's such a really good perspective that you brought up. Because my sister is child free. And her and her husband, they have zero interest in having kids at all ever. And of course, I support that decision 110%. But there's a lot of people who are like, oh, but come on, you'll be such a great mom. Or like, I'm sure that will change as you get older. Like my sister's in her mid 30s. Like she's good. You know what I mean? Like she's very firm in that
Yeah.
choice. She just has never had an interest in being a mom, but she's the greatest aunt to my kid. Like she loves my kid and my kid loves her so much. And same thing with her husband, my brother-in-law. He's such a great uncle and stuff like that. And so thinking about people who are child free being part of your community and of your, you know, your village and your people, I think is really important. And I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. And a lot of child-free women are men too, like love being a part of that village. And there's something I wanted to say just in case any child-free folks are listening. Um, like another thing is we're also good for when mom needs a break from the kids to go out together. We don't always have to hang out with your kids. So if you ever just feel like, hey, let's like go out somewhere and you want a kid-free evening, we're great for those too. So don't forget, like we love your
Yes.
kids, but hey, we loved you first. Like we can all go out together if you need a break from the kids. And
Yes, yes. Such a good reminder. You mentioned like mom being my identity, that when you step outside of that, there is often, I know for me, I can speak for me, and I'm sure this resonates with lots of other moms. There's a sense of guilt. Like, I'm a bad mom because I need time from away from my kids and I need time to be a self. And I had to work through that. It took me a really long time to work through that. And I'll be honest, I don't think I'm 100% worked through it. My spouse has to sometimes remind me, like, you're a self. You need to be a self. You're Holly
Mhm.
first. You know what I mean? And your mom down the line. You're not even mom like immediately second. You're your mom. But that's not your whole identity. I love hanging out with my mom friends, but I do love hanging out with my child free friends too, because the conversation isn't all about our kids the whole time. Because like that's a thing
Yeah.
that we have in common, right? Like a big thing we have in common.
And I know it doesn't really matter much, like coming from someone who's not a mom. You know, I've read extensively about mom guilt, and I think I can at least be empathetic to it. But you're right, that's not your only identity. And I think a lot of women will make that their only identity, and then they lose that sense of themselves. And again, take it with a grain of salt. I know I'm child free, like, you know, what do I know? But even if you just think, like, I think about some of my friends now who are empty nesters, they don't know what to do with their life now that their kid's not there. And
Mhm.
um, while I agree, like, spending all the time with your kid while you can, they are going to grow up and they're going to go do other things. So there's nothing wrong with you taking time for yourself. In fact, I feel like it makes you almost a better mom because
Mhm.
you're able to be more present and you know the energy you do have and that when you are with them it's that much better because you also nourish yourself. That makes any
Yeah.
sense there.
No, it makes a ton of sense. It does. And I think your perspective, you know, even you're trying to like say like, you know, I don't have
What do
kids,
I
so
know?
take this. What do I know? But you're coming at it from a really unique perspective because you're coming at it from the perspective of like a fresh outsider from the situation, and you're like, no, that just makes you. It really does. It really makes you a better parent. Um, it allows you to come back refreshed, re-energized, refocused, in the parenting space. And you know, sometimes it's just like I need 20 minutes to go upstairs and put on my headphones and just zone out and, you know, not be a mom, not be in mom mode, not have to take care of anybody and be responsible. And sometimes it looks like I'm gonna be gone all weekend for a work conference, you know, like I'm out and I can focus on me, knowing that I have a partner and a community of folks that are gonna step in and make sure my kid is totally fine without me, because
Hmm.
she's gonna be fine. For sure, for sure.
I think she's gonna be
Um,
good.
she's all right. I I feel like we could have like 3 episodes just filled with talking about this topic, and I'm so thankful for you putting content out there, and having these discussions um, and bringing voice to a lot of people that society sometimes makes feel bad for a decision that they're making for their life, by not having children, and I'm really thankful for that. One of the last questions I like to ask before we wrap up is, uh, what is a piece of advice that you have for the listeners?
So I guess my biggest piece of advice, because I don't know where your listeners are in their journey, but when it comes to every decision in your life, whether or not it's the child-free one or anything, if it's something that society is pushing you to do, I just want you to take some time and look at the alternative, whatever that might be in life. Whether it's like we mentioned, you saying like, oh, I'm a mom, I need to be a mom all the time. That's society telling you that because it wants women at home and less focus on everything else going on inside. So the biggest word that I would say that describes my platform is the word choice, not pressure. So wherever you go in life, even if you're leaning towards one way, at least just make a fully informed decision. Look at the alternative, look at other people who are living those lifestyles, and make a fully informed choice wherever you go. Because the script that we're given does not fit everybody. And you need to live a life that is authentic to who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah, that's so good. I just want to say a huge thank you, for being on here and for doing the work that you do. All the ways to support you and follow you will be in the show notes of this episode so folks can, follow along with your content. Thank you so much for sharing this amazing perspective and for everything you do. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Holly. It's every time I do have a conversation with a parent who sees where I'm coming from and just supportive. It really it gives me all the warm and fuzzy. We're all just people. We're all just want to get along. So I really appreciate you having me here.